How did he get up there?
Here we see Pinus ponderosa. It's a ponderosa pine. This tree grows best in full sun and deep, moist, well-drained soils, but it does have the ability to adapt to higher elevation dry soils, as it's highly drought tolerant. This tree was a little bit difficult to identify, but I believe it's Pinus resinosa, which is a red pine. It's found commonly on sandy soils, and it doesn't grow the best on dry soils, but here we do find it on drier soil. So this is Juniperus scopularum, which is Rocky Mountain juniper. You can find this tree growing in coarse, medium textured soils. All of these trees tend to like rockier, dry soils for the most part, or at least are able to grow at high elevation in these conditions. Now this is a look at some fire damage done on these slopes in the Rocky Mountains. You'll find these honestly in a lot of places, compared to this slope that doesn't have any fire damage.
So something that I really love about the Colorado mountains is that most of the trees are pines. So even though we had a snowfall and the temperatures are dropping, we still have plenty of green, so it looks really pretty. Over there you can see a cluster of trees that aren't pines and they lost all their leaves. So I'm just really happy that there's so much green still. Look at how long those pines are. Those are so long. I feel like the camera doesn't do it any justice, but... So this right here is one of my favorite trees to ID out here. I see them all the time. And my biggest tell for me are the pine cones. Can you tell what it is? I usually see the cones all over the ground, and this looks like a good one. The thing that helps me the most is seeing all these little like spikes out of the cone. This is a Douglas fir. It always smells like a Christmas tree. I like to break up the needles a little bit and smell it. It smells like a Christmas tree. What do we think, guys? Do we think that this tree is dead or almost dead, as Dr. Grabosky once famously said? Almost dead is a heck of a lot different than completely dead. I don't see any green on it. I don't know. What do you guys think? So moving out here, I was doing some reading about how trees are just different here in Colorado in the mountains with higher elevation. And I think one of the most interesting things that I read was that some of the oldest trees are actually found on these mountains, but you wouldn't be able to tell because they're so tiny and so short. And because they have to deal with different things like high winds, less rain, obviously it's really dry out here, a lot closer to the sun, things like that, they don't grow as tall as maybe some of the pines that we would see out in New Jersey. Here we are pretty high up, and look at this tree. Pretty small, I can hover over it. And then there's this guy over here. He's not looking too good. I feel like we see so much really strange growth out here. Like, look at this pine just completely bent at a 90-degree angle. And it's not even broken. We've seen quite a few trees just completely growing at a 90-degree angle. It's kind of crazy. Here is another pine that has very strange growth. We've been noticing this type of growth obviously on top of the mountains, but also when they're growing between rocks like this. So that definitely the soil, the elevation, the amount of water, that is all going to impact how tall this tree is going to get. And I feel like this tree is pretty old. It doesn't look like a young tree yet. It's so small. So we have another Douglas fir, but look at its growth. It's so short. Look, I'm towering over it, and it doesn't look like it's that young. We've noticed that with a lot of the trees over here that their growth seems to be really stunted and that they're really short and they grow very interestingly.
When they're on top of like a rock face, usually.
Meanwhile, over here we have a Douglas fir, goes all the way down, and it's a lot significantly taller than the one that's over here growing near these rocks.